Mary Meet, Annie here. I realized I hadn't done any kind of a personal, kind of updatey video in a long time, and I wanted to do so. I've been thinking about whether I wanted to or not, and then I got some very interesting emails from, I'd have to say, loved ones on YouTube who've known me well in the years I've been on YouTube. And you actually were kind enough to express concern for me when I made the video that I just did for the YouTube Pagan Challenge, or the one for last week. Yeah, I didn't look so good, did I? And I probably still don't look as well as you remember me looking when I was recording before. I've had a bit of an interesting 2015. It's been challenging in a couple of different ways. Most specifically influenced by Lady Lupus, as I call her, my partner in my life's journey. I've been through a particularly difficult 6 months or so. I've had every experience from not being able to walk, by not being able to think, which worked itself out as sometimes not understanding what numbers were. Try balancing the checkbook when that's happening. I have had times I didn't recognize faces for a period of time. I have had times I didn't know names of things. I'd be in the middle of doing something, couldn't remember how to do the next thing. Oh, I remember one day standing in front of the oven for 15 minutes trying to figure out how do they set the temperature on that thing. Most of those things came and went. Lupus has some misfirings every now and then that happen up here in the brain, and it was definitely a year that I never knew when I woke up each day what was going to happen next. And then I had probably 3 months of very difficult time, and that was through the last 3 months of 2015. It started out in August when I was having problems reading. It broke my heart because I couldn't stay in proper communication with those who were doing the Season of the Seeker. I couldn't read their words. I could read a short sentence. I found I could stay connected on Facebook because you get those one-line bursts normally from people, and especially if I read them out loud, I could understand them. But I had a difficult time replying because the brain couldn't put what I was thinking, it had lost its connection to words. So writing and reading and keyboarding fell victim. It was getting bad towards the end of August. I didn't give it a lot of thought because that kind of thing usually passes. I had times like that in the past that were a challenge. And since I don't work anymore, it's not the problem it used to be where I had to pretend everything was right and hope I didn't get caught and lose my job. So there wasn't a lot of stress involved with it. In September, we traveled to the West Coast to visit my parents, who are well into their 80s, and we drove. So we drove from the East Coast to the West Coast. And we drove for a couple of reasons. My husband can't fly because of his health issues, and we didn't want to leave our dogs in kennels back here for a month. Ernie with all of his health problems, and Bogey just because he's a nervous wreck of a min pin, and we knew that kenneling him would probably drive him over the edge, unfortunately. So we took them with us, and they traveled well in their crates in the back of our SUV. I felt good on that trip across the country. It was a wonderful experience for my husband and I. We enjoyed every moment of it. Enjoyed seeing my family in the Spokane area, my brother, who lives in Idaho near Coeur d'Alene. During those travelings, I wasn't reading or writing. I was enjoying every moment and the beauty of driving across the northern United States. So I didn't realize until we actually got home, after this fantastic time away, that the problem I had been experiencing in August not only was still happening, but had gotten worse. It was a very difficult struggle for me to not be able to pick up a book and read. I couldn't do videos because if I do topic videos, I don't do them from a script per se, but I usually have like a list, 5 or 6 things that I want to make sure I say. So I couldn't do that. Couldn't do videos because I rambled. I couldn't talk on the phone because I didn't see somebody mouthing words. I didn't understand what they were saying. And that went on really until the solstice, a little bit after. I can look back on it now and I realize that other things needed to happen in my life at that time. So it was kind of clearing an area where other things came in. It didn't feel that way at the time. You know, I guess I'd often thought when you do, what if I couldn't hear? Or what if I couldn't see? Or what if I could no longer taste? You think of your senses, and what if you lost any one of them? And in a way, it was like losing the sense of sight. but I could still appreciate being outside. I went for long walks because physically I wasn't having any problems. A lot of peaceful time spent out there with my loved ones in nature. It was hard on me because I fell out of communication with loved ones online, and I struggled to be in communication to some limited extent. Then a friend of mine who had had a stroke, and after his stroke had similar kinds of problems with the comprehension of words, the way the brain connects words to mouth, to fingers when you're doing reading or writing and keyboarding. He had some good exercises that he had been told to help re-engage the part of the brain that understands those forms of communication. And I worked diligently for 3 weeks or so in December, and slowly everything started coming back. And then it was back. Back with a vengeance, I'd say. I can't write enough. I can't journal enough. I started a new website just for my personal life and my blogging experience. If you're interested in that kind of thing, I'll put a link in the comments below. Oh, it's not a particularly witchy or pagan. It's just me yattering on about my daily life. I'm in a good place now. And I wasn't in such a good place for 3 months. And even as I say that, I challenge my own thinking. It didn't feel like I was in a good place at the time, but I have a sense now of what was filling the void. And I'm better off for it at this end. Life is good, here by the bay. We are both at this point in good health and thriving. I am especially thriving because winter living at the ocean side is the greatest experience I've ever had as far as connection, continual day-to-day connection with Gaia. No one's on the beach but me. No one's in the woods but me. No one's sitting at the edge of the bay but me. In the summertime, Goddess bless them, our land is filled with tourists and we can't do without them. I love them. But then they're gone. And there's the stillness that falls upon the area I live, which reminds me, in the summertime for 3 months, it's a resort community with everything that comes with that. The good and the bad. And then the easing of that season opens up the wildness, the endless possibilities of the land, and it becomes more of a rural farming environment. Well, that was happening all along, but when it's filled with people, I experience it a lot differently than I do when it's quiet. On the other hand, my husband goes bats. He starts missing our neighbors because a good percentage, a vast majority of the people in our neighborhood aren't here over the winter time. They come here seasonally. Maybe come down a couple of times in the cold weather, but more than likely they're going to close up their houses here so as not to have to pay to heat them. So he starts wandering around looking for folks to talk to. He's our social butterfly. Not the most pleasant of experiences for him. Oh, the first couple of months he enjoys it, but he's starting to get into that mode of missing the vibrant community that surrounds us in the summer months. I could just be like this forever, to tell you the truth. Oh, I had big plans over what the quiet of this winter would be. I wanted to be doing the serious editing of the Season of the Seeker. 10 groups did finish Season of the Seeker, and it breaks my heart to say that the last group have guided themselves more than having any sense of me being present with them the last several months of their journey. I think that's the biggest thing my illness robbed from me, was separation from those loved ones. And I feel so blessed that as I've been able to get back in communication, they've welcomed that. And they haven't harbored ill will towards me. I feel like there was a promise unkept with that particular group. But 10 groups of folks, usually about 20 made it to the very end of Season of the Seeker, devoting themselves to an entire year, plus a couple of weeks of that program. Think of all the people, the beautiful people that I met in the process of that. I thought I'd been into the dark time of this winter, be tidying up all the notes from that and the sessions and rewriting and editing and getting ready for publication. Well, obviously that didn't happen, my friends. Not when words left my brain. I thought I'd be ready to begin on the season of the Dedicant, the follow-up to Season of the Seeker. Not with words having left my brain. Now there's a reason why I'll know down the road, and why that part of what I had planned got a bit delayed. But life, when I stop and think about it, about me in it, about the wider sense of connection I have in my current life, it's beautiful. And it's at times sometimes so intimate it feels cloistered, and other times it feels so expansive and full of possibility. That's particularly welcome. I don't like older people like myself who go into a quiet zone at some point in their chronological aging. And it feels like in this time that was so strange, from August until recently, how did my sense of myself in the middle of all that opening up to possibility? I never celebrate the chronological New Year, but this year, since words came back to me about the time that the New Year began, they have, and what they represent in the way of being in touch and communication with others, and that my ability to express myself, my ability to be one with other humans at the level of the verbal level, the level of communication. I've come to honor how much I need it and how much I respect it. That 3-4 months of being disconnected from the online community in many ways drove me to become more connected, to aggressively seek out like minds in the community I live in, meeting others I can celebrate Esbats and Sabbats with. I joined my local Unitarian Universalist church. I'm looking for ways to volunteer and be active and engaged and out there. Life changes. It changes outside of our control so very often. I think I was given the opportunity to feel blessed by so many things in my life. When words started making sense again, euphoria and celebration washed over me. I'd say that 2015 ended up being a much more powerful year of learning than I anticipated it would be. Life in retirement is kind of predictable. Each day's beautiful, the same as the day before it, the same as the day after it. I'm not on anybody's time schedule. I don't know usually what day of the week it is, what time of day it is. I know when the sun comes up and the sun goes down. But to have the opportunity to be challenged and changed, well, I'm not a young woman anymore when that was constantly happening. Every year was an evolution to some new sense of who I was. That happened to me again in 2015. There's not much catch-up to give you other than that. I haven't posted videos in quite a long time, but what happened to me in the meantime was meant to be personal, obviously. It was an inward journey. Obviously, my husband got taken along with me. He had to live with, and he was a great partner in this, by the way, in helping me and encouraging me and helping me to cope with the things that were going on. I think in the end I would not have thought, without a huge momentous life event, the passing of my husband or something huge like that, I never would have realized how much I could have been changed in a year. And not when there's already so many years that have flowed under my life bridge. So there's not much catch-up in specifics, but there's a catch-up in sharing my current attitude with you. And hoping that all of you have small moments of epiphany that mine seem to be a stretched out epiphany over months of time, of the things we need to cherish in life, and the fact that whether we were anticipating it or not, we will be changed through the living of our life and the gathering of our life experiences. A little bit of a personal vlog. Thinking about 2015. how truly strange it became for me, and how I'm better for it on the other side. I wish you all mirth and reverence. Merry part.